Usually I'm so relaxed. I welcome to this episode of my interview with Devorah Goldblatt. Today, our overall category is how to parent your teen through difficult times. And we know our kids are having a very, very rough time. And I became acquainted with Devorah's work just this month. And she is everything I love in a healer. I adore her approach. I love her energy. I love what she brings to the table. So Devorah is a holistic counselor helping teens in early 20s overcome depression and anxiety through non-medicinal remedies, which is really lights my fire. I love looking and exploring alternative ways that have zero side effects. And Devorah is going to speak about when talk therapy and medicine isn't the right fit and how holistic and natural solutions can actually help your teen and really yourself overcome anxiety and depression. So welcome to the interview, Devorah. I'm so happy you could join us.
Thank you so much, Ellie. I'm so happy to be here.
Good. So Devorah, tell me, how did you get into this holistic treatment in depression and anxiety modality?
Yes. I mean, it goes way back for me. Do you want me to talk a little bit about my experience as a teen quickly?
A little bit.
A little bit. That's where I got into it. So I was a teen with severe anxiety and depression, actually PTSD as well. And I tried talk therapy. I tried, mainstream psych medication. And it works for a lot of people. It didn't work for me. So I found that, I tried it for years. And then when I was about 20 is when I discovered holistic techniques. And that completely healed my depression and anxiety. And the PTSD was completely gone. So after that, that's when I thought, okay, this is what I have to do,
Wow.
And that's where I started studying, all the different techniques that I use. And that's kind of,
And how long did it take you with the modality that you used or the modalities that you used to heal yourself? What time frame are we looking
So I'm a crazy story. I can't promise the results that I got, but in 3 months it was done.
Oh my gosh.
It was, yeah. I mean, so for me, my kind of entry into the rabbit hole was EFT tapping, which at this point is a proven treatment for anxiety, depression, and PTSD. There's a lot of, randomized controlled trials proving its effectiveness. But back then, this is like almost 20 years ago, it was weird.
It was weird.
It was like,
it's still weird.
It's still weird.
I'm also an EFT practitioner and I love it. I don't think there's a modality that I've used that has the same results and fast results. So I'm sold, but I want you to tell us a little bit about the modalities that you use and how they target anxiety and depression.
Sure, I would love to. So, Shelley, I might go into kind of more my model that I use, which includes the modalities. So I work with really two categories. I work with, people who they're more holistically minded. So they want to look for alternatives before getting like maybe, meds or talk therapy for anxiety, depression, maybe PTSD for their children, or they've tried everything. And then they come to me because that hasn't worked. Like they've gone the mainstream route. And always before I start any of this, I always want to say, I never want there to be any judgment about anybody's choices. Like people need to do what works for them. And talk therapy and medication work for many, many people, and they're very satisfied with that. But for people who want something different, I have kind of a pyramid of techniques that I really feel exactly what teens need for healing from anxiety or depression, or even just resilience, honestly. I think we can bring it to everybody. Yeah. And so in answer to your question, the techniques, and I keep making this like pyramid thing because I really think of it like this, is there's 3 levels. And the first level is where like something like an EFT tapping would come in. And that's where our kids need tools to deal with outside stress, trauma triggers. When I say trauma, I'm talking like big T trauma. I'm talking little T trauma, any kind of, but our kids are bombarded constantly with all sorts of stimulation and all sorts of, disturbing images on their phone. Somebody bullied them, online. They've been left out and they saw it on Instagram. Corona, you name it, right? They've got this influx, right? The 24-hour news cycle, right? The notifications on their phone, this constant influx. And I don't feel we're appropriately teaching our kids what to do when you've got this, you're confronted by some sort of very difficult stressor, right? And that's where a tool like EFT tapping, which again has been proven right? To help with, it reduces your cortisol level, your stress hormone by 40%, within like one session, right, of doing it. It's been, again, proven for all these different issues. That's for people who don't know, I know, Shelley, you're a practitioner, but anyone watching who doesn't know, that's just an acupressure technique based off of Chinese acupuncture. And it's believed to help regulate the amygdala, where we kind of are in fight or flight, and our hippocampus, where our emotional memories are stored, where we're having these kind of reactions around what we're remembering about something. So that's huge. But there are many modalities like it. So in that first category of what can I have my teen learn that can help him or her when something's just coming at them and it's really hard. And you know what? They're not always going to come to us. That's the other thing, like
Sure.
We might be conscious parents. We love our kids. And Shelley, I know you talk so much, right, about like being there for your kid unconditionally, even if they choose a path that we can do that. We can try to be unconditionally loving, and we can try to show them we're always supportive, and still they will not always come to us when they have a problem. Right. So the key is like, what can we empower them with that they can do for themselves at 3 o'clock in the morning when they're falling apart? And hey, they can't call their therapist then either. Right. So EFT tapping is huge. EMDR is a great one, right? Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. So I don't know if you've heard of that, but EMDR is just, it's bilateral stimulation and, some eye movement. And officially, yeah, real big trauma, you should absolutely do with a practitioner. However, absolutely, there's a lot of self EMDR that can be done, and teens can be taught that. So again, they have a tool that empowers them, so they don't have to be going off to a professional every time, they need support with something.
Right. I just want to interject that these are methods to take a kid out of crisis mode when they are in like overwhelm and they don't know what to do. We're giving them tools. You're giving them tools that they can actually, and they're non-invasive tapping, even though it's based on acupuncture points. It's just tapping points, and EMDR also. It's a totally non-invasive, zero side effect modalities that the kid can implement immediately and get immediate results. So I just wanted to get that out because it's so important that they don't have to wait hours to feel better. It's even quicker than aspirin. Like it's like immediate.
It's so quick. Yeah, exactly. I love that you said that. It's immediate. It's empowering, right? They can do it on their own. They can do it at 3 a.m. It's huge. So these are just some examples. EFT tapping and EMDR, again, are evidence-based at this point. They are proven, to help in the treatment of anxiety and depression. Other things, I think you mentioned, Shelley, maybe when you were speaking, but EFT tapping has several spin-offs, like quick tapping, like faster EFT is another one, matrix re-imprinting tapping. So I'm not going to get too much in any of these, but there are a lot of modalities like this. Another one, just one more I would mention in this category is havening, which is just generating a lot of research interest right now. It's new. It was founded by a neuroscientist, Dr. Rudin, and basically it's, bringing up kind of a difficult thought or trauma or memory or whatever, while you're doing a little bit of some EMDR with eye movement. It's kind of a cousin to EMDR, but also this really nice stimulation that, again, the client can learn to do on themselves. And it's really interesting. It actually stimulates delta waves, which are those same waves that you get when like your mom's like stroking a child. It's like this I get relaxed just doing it. Yeah. And what basically it's fascinating because our brains, while they're bringing out something difficult, but also getting this increased like serotonin and that delta wave kind of thing, it really levels it out. And it's funny, I don't even know if you can hear from my voice change, but even just doing this for like a minute, you just get like very relaxed. So that's another thing. The research is really ongoing on havening, but in practice, we're finding it to be super effective. And also there is some research now that is definitely effective for stress relief. So again, and there's more, but these are just some good examples of those top level, like, I think all our kids need this, diagnosis or not.
Right. I agree.
Definitely
everybody needs this.
Yeah. So that would be the first level. And I think that's the most important. Once our kids have that, the next level would be tools to deal with inner stress and conflict. So even if it's not, let's say, triggered by something you saw on your screen that is freaking you out, right? But maybe you're walking around with just really negative self-talk, or like, I'm not enough, I should be doing more. I was just working with a client who was stressed in all the social conversations because he had this belief, like, I need to be more articulate, but he's not. So And then, and then if you have a belief that you should be more articulate, but you're not articulate, you're stressed out. If you're less articulate, right? Like it just works like that. Or like she shouldn't have said that to me. She shouldn't have dress coded me,
but she did.
But she did. So, having teens like get a sense of what's happening in their heads, like what negative self-talk are they having? And there are actually ways to release negative beliefs. One thing that I teach teens is called IBSR, inquiry-based stress reduction. Mm-hmm. It's also been called the work of Byron Katie.
I was just going to ask if you like Byron Katie, because I was thinking this is perfect. This Byron Katie is really what's reality. Like you wish it didn't happen, but the reality is it did. So how do we deal with the reality? So yeah.
Right. Exactly. Like, right. And the more you fight against reality, the more miserable you are. And it's just, exactly. So, and I use it in my parenting all the time. Like probably a day doesn't go by when I don't use, the work somehow in my parenting. So there's actually studies on that too. Actually we just did one in Israel here at Sackler at Tel Aviv University with a lot of the teachers in the Jerusalem school district during Corona, teaching them IBSR and finding that it absolutely promoted resilience and stress relief during lockdowns. And it was really cool. But it's being studied absolutely for stress, for resilience, for depression as well. It's in the research. And it's so empowering for teens to know that they can actually handle their thinking.
Yeah, and it is. And for mothers, I'm thinking the mothers who are kids who are depressed and anxious or PTSD, how many mothers say, I wish my kid wasn't suffering from it. But the reality is your kid is suffering from it. So it's how to deal with your thoughts to empower you. And then you show up different as a parent, right? When your kid is suffering.
For sure. I mean, when we moved, because we moved here last year. And one of the big beliefs I had to deal with is this belief that like I'm responsible for my children's happiness. Like that was a huge one. And when I realized like, well, I had this belief I'm responsible for my children's happiness, but then they weren't happy. So it was
a lot of pressure on us.
A lot of pressure. And once I cleared it, I was like, oh, I could fully be there for them, without thinking, oh, this is my fault.
Right. You hold space. Yeah. It's very different. Okay. So tell me more of the levels of the pyramid, because I think.
So that's the second level. And there's other things in that level too. Like some people have heard the 3 principles. There's for people into kinesiology, which is also holding different acupressure points. There are acupressure points that we believe affect the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, which is the part where we hold our beliefs. And you can actually weaken the hold you have on beliefs. It's very interesting. That is not evidence-based, to be quite honest, but it works. It works. It absolutely works. Yeah. So again, there's actually a toolbox. There's a toolbox at the top level, right? Our kids can have tools to deal with outside stuff coming in. There's a toolbox at the second level. Once they've quieted the outside, only then I find they can really deal with the inside, but they can learn to delete, really like question beliefs and delete them if they don't work. And really get a handle on what they're thinking. And only after we get to level 1 and 2, that's when I find we can do level 3, which is like a sustainable self-care routine. And when I say like self-care, I don't mean like the spa. I mean like meditation, mindfulness, journaling, and in ways that actually, like I told my teen daughter, I said, in ways that aren't lame. She said, Mom, don't use the word lame. Lame is lame. I said, okay, what do I use instead? And I'm trying to remember what she told me. I don't remember now. It was so funny, but she had like
all the people listening will know what lame is much more than the new word that your daughter told you.
It's so funny. I don't know. It'll come back to me. I'll have to ask her when she comes home from school. Like, what was the word I was supposed to use instead? My clients won't always correct me, but my kids will. Anyway, there are some really fascinating meditations and that like the kids can actually get into. And the research again on meditation and mindfulness and even journaling is significant. So that's also a way. But that being said, I find that the pyramid is important. And I wish more people were talking about this. Like this is kind of a system I've developed, but I find that a lot of people, we try to bring mindfulness or meditation to the kids. Because that we know works and we talk about that and it's trendy and there's mindfulness in the schools. I haven't seen it so much here in Israel, but in the States, like there was definitely a move to bring mindfulness in the schools more. But when you have kids showing up and you expect them to focus and be where they are, or meditate and get to a point of like nothing and they're in such nervous system dysregulation
With this one
from all this,
balanced. Yeah.
right, from all this stimulation coming in, all this stuff going on inside. It's so hard for them to actually be able to meditate or be mindful. And then they like scrap the whole thing because they get frustrated and they say, well, that didn't work for me. So the key is, I think, these steps. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. It makes so
Yeah.
much sense because you can't concentrate and focus on the meditation if you're going through crisis. Like it's like impossible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it is the kind of thing where once the kids get it, they can do it sustainably, like daily or even weekly. You know what I mean? So it's that kind of thing that they have as a routine that keeps them grounded, and doesn't have to be like 30 minutes a day. We're talking like even 5 or 10 minutes, but it's something that just keeps them going and levels them out. So there are fewer, dramatic ups and downs going forward.
Wow. And do
Yeah.
you find that the teens that come to see you, how do you get them to buy into it, or do they like into it right away because they see the results?
That's a great question. It totally depends on the technique. So, but the key, I think, with, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, Shelley, like on having anyone buy into anything is first, like appreciating who they are just as they are. Teens especially are very sensitive to us wanting to fix them.
Mhm.
So, the more we can just like, it's like, there's nothing wrong with me. Stop trying to fix me. So the more we can just say like, wow, look at all this like stuff you're doing right. Like our kids have, right? They have their own inner wisdom.
Mhm.
And wherever they are, like they are coping beautifully with a tremendous of stuff. Even though if you don't think they're coping beautifully, like I assure you, your child has developed some really magnificent coping strategies. They just might not be the ones that you like. Do you know what I mean? But our kids are doing the best with the tools they have always. And sometimes they just need more tools. But us being able to step back and say, you have your own deeper inner wisdom. Look at all the amazing things you're doing already. You're still here. You know what I mean?
Which
You're
is
still
huge.
showing up,
Huge.
right?
Especially
Amazing.
I could never be a teen today. I don't think I would make it. It's just too
No,
overwhelming. The challenges are massive.
massive, massive. So the fact that our kid is still here in front of us and is showing up however he or she is huge. And the more we can feel into that and appreciate them as they are, only then can they start thinking like, and then we can say, oh, by the way, I learned about this and this thing. I think maybe it'll help you. But it's like, we're not talking, resilience is not sexy. What's sexy is peak performance. So like a lot of the stuff though is, the athletes are using it. Like if you go on YouTube, there's tons of videos of athletes tapping, like Olympians are doing EFT tapping. Right? Like it was, and Justin Bieber is havening, which is that other technique I mentioned with the Delta wave. So you can see a lot of Justin Bieber havening. Everyone's meditating. I'm from Cleveland, and LeBron James was like, our big basketball player, and he's all about meditation. He's like the face of the meditation apps, and so the kids can like see that it can help you step into your power, and they can sometimes I find some of our kids who need it the most and won't do it will learn it because they can help their friends.
Oh, that's such a great back door.
Yeah.
I love that.
Like if you say to them, I think you have the potential to actually be a healer, like you're seeing them as their best self. Now you don't want a situation where obviously they're, it's like some kind of codependent situation where they're like, not dealing with their own issues because they're helping all their friends all the time. But honestly, often that's happening
it helps
already.
Them, right. And it helps them anyways.
They're already like, but still, to be a certain, as I say to them, well, if you want to be a healer, like you can't take someone farther than you yourself have gone. Like you need, what's the inner work you need to do to be able to help other people. But they like the idea. And if they're learning it to help others, they end up using it on themselves all the time. But yeah, it's a good backdoor to get them.
Yeah,
get them interested. Yeah.
Before my last question, second last question, I just want to say, as a mom or a father, if you're listening, just hug yourself. Like a lot of my EFT and my work is sending yourself love and picturing yourself hugging your younger self or your current self, but just doing this without any other thoughts. It just brings out all these feel good feelings, and it just will restore you to a more sense of calm spot. It's like really super powerful. So that's a good lead into my next question is, what can moms themselves do to empower themselves to show up the best way they can?
I love that question. I honestly think this pyramid works for moms too. I find that, like if you're stressed about something that your kid is doing, what I do personally as a mom, I'll do like an EFT vent. So I'll go in my car, I'll go somewhere really quiet, and I'll tap through the EFT points, and I am venting. Like graphic is great, profanity is fine, right? Like I'm sure you've done this,
Totally.
Shelly.
Oh my
And you
gosh.
get it out and out and out until you've
Yeah.
got nothing left. Often there's tears, there's always, I find when I do this, there's always a shift, when I come back and I face my child. And the other thing I do all the time is that IBSR, inquiry-based stress reduction, or the work. I did this the other day with my kid. She wasn't listening to me. And I realized in this moment, I had this thought, like, she needs to listen to me right now, but she wasn't. So it was like, okay, like, how can I turn that thought around? And, maybe maybe she really shouldn't be listening to me. Like, how am I showing up differently? And as soon as I realized what was going on for me, I got less reactive and less just, I need these to be a certain way.
This energy, the energy shifts.
Right? And then right away, she listened to me. She apologized.
Wow.
Without any prompting for me, the whole energy shifted. But I find that happens often. You probably have used this too, Shelly, where you're like, everything's just different,
Because we can't change anybody's behavior. We show up different. Right. We change our behavior, and that energy we put out may or may not change their behavior, but we're showing up differently and we perceive the situation very differently. So
yeah,
it's but I love that you're really, really empowering the teen and the mom in ways that can be implemented. Literally, the tapping points take 5 minutes to learn, or less. Right. Like it's like phenomenal. Wow, amazing. So exciting. Yeah. So I'm going to put all your contact information at the bottom of the video, but if people don't want to read it, where can they find you for help?
Sure. So I have a Facebook page. It's called Holistic Teen Counseling. But you can also find it just under my profile, which is Devorah Goldblatt. And my website, www.devorahgoldblatt.com.
Awesome. Devorah, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop recording now, and I want you to stay on for a second.